take the stage.
Our next session is a series of presentations about how food organizations responded to the challenges of Hurricane Helene and how they have mobilized to build new ways of engaging with food systems. To begin, please welcome Claire Neal, CEO of MANNA FoodBank, as she takes the stage.
Wonderful to be here with you. I first want to start off by thanking the organizers for holding this wonderful day here in Western North Carolina. Thank you all for being here. It's such an important part of our recovery to have people coming to the region and spending time here. So again, we just really appreciate you being here and enjoying everything Western North Carolina has to offer. I am Claire Neal. I'm the CEO for MANNA FoodBank. Some of you may know that, like many people in our region, MANNA lost our home in Hurricane Helene. We knew that there was a danger of that. We were on the river, and the day before we closed, and it feels quaint now, but I still fully remember taking all the things out of the cabinets and putting them on top of the counters, thinking that the water would never get up above the knee-length level. In our 40 years, it had never flooded more than the base of our foundation. And so the morning of the storm, I was checking in nonstop with an app that checked the water levels and trying to refresh frantically, talking on the phone to my leadership team. And I refreshed. Suddenly, the sensor came back and it said, the water has reached a level higher than the sensors will go, and there will be no more readings. At that same time, the call dropped where I was talking to my leadership team, and my husband yelled from the basement that our basement was flooding. And so I ran downstairs to take care of that. By the time I got back, we had no cell service, no water, no electricity, and really no idea what the future of MANNA looked like. But we knew that our community was going to need us. And that was definitely for sure. You know, we all like to say that our whole community learned a little about what food insecurity feels like during that time, because people didn't have power, they didn't have water, the things that they had in their fridges started to go bad. But it was such a beautiful thing to see the community come together. Neighbors helped neighbors, people did communal cookouts. It really was a testament to the strength and the resilience of this community, how people came together after that. And for us at MANNA, it was really no different. We lost both of our warehouses, all of our food, all of our equipment, all of our computer systems. The only thing that we were able to save were our trucks that we were able to move to higher ground. And so I remember full well that first day when we realized that we had lost everything and that our community was going to need us so deeply, thinking, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? And so we devised this plan, which felt like a really wonderful plan at the time, that we were going to take donations in the morning, and then we were going to turn around and give them back out in the afternoon. Now remember, at that time, there wasn't cell service, there wasn't internet, the roads to Asheville were pretty much closed at that point, so we didn't think anybody could get to us from outside the region. And so we were really just kind of relying on the kindness and capacity of our local neighbors here to be able to support the community. So we put the word out far and wide on radio that we would be having this distribution. And this is truly, it was that morning, the scariest moment of my professional life, because it sounded like a great idea. We had it all set, and then I pulled up to where we were going to do the distribution in the morning, and the reality of how nothing we had, how little that we could give to our community when they showed up, really hit us. But the truth is, this community came through in spades. People gave what they had. They pulled things out of their garages to give to their neighbors. They figured things out. They got food to us. And then when the roads opened up, the rest of the country and really the world responded in really amazing and beautiful ways. And it was one of the honors of my life to be able to be a part of that response, because it was such a phenomenal thing to see people come together to take care of their neighbors in that way. And I'd often think, you know, when we talked about the hurricane, we would talk about this cycle of grief and gratitude. It was like a roller coaster, right? For those who were here, you remember 1 minute you'd be crying with your neighbor, and then the next minute they would turn to tears of joy over something wonderful that had happened, and then back to grief again. But what we saw is that people came together in ways that they never had before, and all of those kind of imaginary lines that we create for ourselves around the service areas that we have or the people that we're going to serve, all of that disappeared. It was, what do you need? How can I help? And how can I get things to you? And that's really what people did across the board. I'll give you just one little example, and I know you're going to hear many more from the speakers after me, but in that cycle of grief and gratitude, in the beginning, there was no drinking water. And so we put out a call. We need water, and we need a lot of it. And of course, people responded in spades. We had so much water. And so then we quickly had more water than we could even distribute in a lifetime, more water than our new 84,000-foot warehouse could hold. And so then we were worried, this is the grief part, what are we going to do with all this water? How do we get it out to people? It's starting to get cold. What if it freezes and busts? What are we going to do? But we quickly did an assessment talking to all of our friends and colleagues and community members, and found out that for many of the schools, by that point, they were ready to reopen, but because they didn't have running water, they had to have a really tremendous amount of water on site. I forget what the exact figure was, but a certain number of gallons per child per day had to be on site at the school in order for them to open again. And so for many schools, that was kind of the deciding factor that was holding them back from being able to reopen after the storm. And we all know, not only did we need our schools open so our kids could be learning again, but in many cases, school is the place where kids get reliable meals. Also, a lot of the parents couldn't go back to work when the schools weren't open, and so it was affecting our economy. So opening those schools was really a linchpin to us being able to recover as a community. And so this was one of the huge gratitude moments. We had all this water, we had trucks, we had the ability to get it to those schools, and those schools could keep that water on site so that it was there for the kids, and they were able to reopen as a result of that. So that's just one little story. Thank you. It's just one little story in thousands of wonderful examples. And again, you're going to hear so many, but I wanted to share that because I think it's just another great example of how we saw the lines blur, how we saw people, meeting each other's needs, whatever those were. When we think about the hurricane, it's easy for it to feel like it was a long time in the past, but for us, that has been the biggest learning, is just how long recovery takes. For us at MANNA, one of the key tools of our trade are freezers and coolers, right? We distribute food to 16 counties of Western North Carolina and the Qualla boundary. And so for the past 497 days, and yes, we're counting every minute, we have had to do that without freezers and coolers. And so it's kind of like a painter being without their paintbrushes. We've made it work, but that process has really been challenging, required creativity, required resilience, and required a lot of partnership and understanding from our community in how we work together and how we get that food out. So again, just a small example, but that's the kind of thing that is happening all over this region. Now, here we are, 497 days later. We've just finished our freezer and cooler, so thrilled about that. Yeah, that one is definitely worth a cheer. And now we're in the process of beginning to be able to rebuild the volunteer center and the offices. And so I say all of that just to use MANNA as an example. We're not that different from many of our neighbors. Many of our neighbors are still rebuilding. I know you all heard from our farmers, many of whom it's going to take years and years before their farms are back to where they were before this storm. And so just want all of us to keep in mind that that recovery process is a long one. It doesn't happen overnight, but it is something that we can do together. We have that, I call it the muscle memory, but we all felt that collaboration so deeply after the hurricane. You know, people work together in such wonderful ways that nobody wants to see that end. We all want to see that continue, and what we've seen post, in this long recovery period is so many people continuing to partner, continuing to look how to bring in other sectors, how to converge our work, and I've just seen that beyond any of the other communities that I've worked in previously. So if there is a silver lining to this hurricane, I really think it is that sense of collaboration, that sense of community, and that collective commitment that we all have to doing this work together. So again, I'm just really grateful to be here with all of you, to be able to be in this work with all of you. So thank you for what you're doing, and thank you for being here in Western North Carolina.
Thank you, Claire. Next, we welcome our friends from Food Connection, Marisha, MacMorran, and Lacy Hornbeck, to take the stage.
Thank you. Claire is always such a tough act to follow. See what I did there? Quick show of hands. Who has a favorite restaurant in Asheville? Yeah, we all do. Asheville is known as a food destination. People travel here from all over for the culinary experience. Food is truly celebrated here. And yet, we have heard today what we already know too well. In our very own communities, children go home to empty refrigerators. Families stretch meals and make impossible choices. When we look directly into the lens of child hunger, when we truly allow ourselves to see it, it can feel overwhelming. The scale of need and the depth of scarcity. And at the same time, 40% of all food produced in the United States ends up in the landfill. 40%. Scarcity and surplus existing side by side. Where many see waste, we see opportunity. Food Connection connects the dots between places that have too much food to our neighbors who don't have enough. For those of you who may not know us, Food Connection was founded with a simple but radical idea. What if we treated surplus food not as waste, but as a resource? We began disrupting food waste 11 years ago by rescuing surplus chef-prepared meals from catering companies, conference centers, hospitals, and universities, and redistributing it to community partners serving our neighbors. Today, we work with more than 100 food donor partners, including the Omni Grove Park Inn, 12 Bones Smokehouse, and one of our favorites, Everyday Gourmet, who's been feeding us all day today. Let's give them a round of applause. While you are all sitting here listening to the amazing speakers and panelists today, our food waste warriors snuck in like ninjas, took the breakfast croissants and the muffins over to the A Hope Day Center, where our unsheltered neighbors had them for lunch. Our chef partners help us turn abundance into access on a huge scale. In 2025 alone, Food Connection rescued and redistributed more than 225,000 nutritious meals. In the beginning, Food Connection moved full pans of high-quality prepared food to agency partners across Buncombe County. That food matters. Because when a shelter or recovery center doesn't have to stretch their food budget, they can focus on other mission-critical programs like housing stability, transportation, and mental health care. Then COVID hit. Congregate meals stopped overnight, and our food donor partners were forced to close their doors. And at the very same time, need increased dramatically, new barriers to access emerged, families were isolating, and school closures disrupted predictable meal access. And we had to pivot. We began purchasing individual meals from our chef partners, putting them back into the kitchen when they would otherwise be out of work. And for the first time, Food Connection served the community directly with individual meals. What we saw changed us. We saw how powerful it was for a family to receive a ready-to-eat, dignified meal, no qualifying questions, no paperwork, no stigma. That experience became the foundation for what is now our Mobile Meals program. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Lacy Hornbeck, our Community Engagement Manager, to tell you more about how Mobile Meals works.
Thank you, Marisha. And thanks to all of you for doing all of the good work that you're doing. Our Mobile Meals program is thriving, serving many different populations. We use the rescued food, package it, and share it with our neighbors. No questions asked, like Marisha just said. Several of our distributions are part of our Beyond the Bus Line program, bringing meals to communities that are too far out of Asheville proper to be able to access the resources that we have in town. For example, every Saturday morning we go out to the parking lot at Art Space Charter School, meet up with our friends from Bounty and Soul, and share meals with our neighbors. We work hard to layer in supportive services at these sites. We've partnered with the Buncombe County Mobile Health Team, Hope for NC for mental health support. We've hosted coat distributions and even welcome volunteers who set up a holiday baked goods table. While connecting neighbors with nutritious meals is our core mission, we are always looking for ways to build community around it. At these distributions, we also work with community connectors, individuals who meet us at our distribution sites each week to pick up meals for neighbors who may be homebound or living out farther beyond our reach. These dedicated volunteers bring our meals the final miles. Our recovery program supplies sober living homes and addiction recovery centers and more with nutritious meals for the residents and clients, removing one essential burden from people who are working hard to reclaim their health and happiness. Our elder program is supported by all of the other initiatives and ensures our older adults, often living on fixed incomes, have enough to eat. For many of our elder neighbors, that weekly distribution is the only social interaction that they have all week. They linger, visit, and connect, and that time together matters just as much as the meal. And finally, our Youth and Families program. We're currently serving 12 different agencies, schools, and early learning centers. The food we serve often comes from places like Pax Tavern or Chai Pani, meals that were $40 the night before, and we get to share it for free. Our menu board might feature chicken with roasted potatoes or salmon with rice and green beans. Introducing young palates to a wide variety of healthy foods can shape lifelong eating habits. We often ask parents what they were most surprised by to see their little ones enjoying, and so often the answers are broccoli or asparagus. I never thought to even make her asparagus. And the salads, they love the salads. So every Wednesday we bring Fran, our mobile meals truck, to the Werner Center for Early Learning, which serves children ages 0 through 5. Julian is one of the students there and is always excited to have the menu read to him and to see what the choices are. They might be, for example, spaghetti and meatballs, or chicken fingers with mac and cheese, or salmon with green beans. And every time Julian goes, salmon! He loves it, and it is awesome to see him so excited to making such healthy choices. We time these distributions to coincide with end-of-day pickup. Parents know that one evening each week they don't have to meal plan, they don't have to shop, they don't have to cook, and they don't have to clean. And that frees up precious hours between school and bedtime for family time. An extra book at night or a bath that isn't rushed, these are luxuries on school nights. And like every other distribution, families are encouraged to bring home enough meals to feed the whole family for as many days as they need until they see us again. We also show up weekly at Asheville Middle School. Their after-school program called In Real Life is a student-informed curriculum. It focuses on STEM programs, but also gardening and learning to grow vegetables, baking, and even bike riding lessons. It's an awesome program, but being in middle school is hard. And when qualifying for food assistance programs lets everyone at school know that your family's low income, when it others you, it can be even harder. We are committed to service with dignity, no qualifying and no questions asked. When we roll up with our free food truck experience, we open the windows, we've got a great playlist going, it's fun and it's festive, and every student lines up side by side, excited to grab a meal for right then and to grab enough meals to bring home for the family. So what could feel embarrassing becomes empowering. There's pride in being able to go home and say, "Ma, I got meals for the whole family." That's the kind of impact we're here for. Not just feeding people, but nourishing community. I'll turn it back over to Marisha.
Thank you, Lacy. What you just heard is how Mobile Meals works every day, consistently, intentionally, and rooted in community. And then Hurricane Helene hit. When Hurricane Helene reached Western North Carolina, we were no longer responding to isolated barriers. We were responding to widespread disruption. Roads were closed, power was out, and families were displaced. Food Connection didn't have to invent a response. We had already built one. We had a system to distribute chef-prepared meals at scale, coordinate rapid distribution through trusted community partners, mobilize volunteers quickly. In a matter of days, we increased meal distribution from 2,000 meals per week to over 12,000 meals per week. Working with locals and our community connectors and our agency partners, we moved meals from Equal Plates Project, Mercy Chefs, and World Central Kitchen to where they were needed most. What we saw again is that when you build systems rooted in dignity, partnership, and abundance, they don't just work on good days. They stand strong in crisis. And here's the truth. This model is not unique to Asheville. It's adaptable, it's replicable, and it belongs in communities across Western North Carolina, across the country. That's why Food Connection is launching a mentorship initiative to walk alongside leaders just like you. We want to share the systems we have tested and the models that we've refined, so that in your community every day, and especially in moments of disruption, children and families have access to nourishing food and a dignified experience. Scarcity overwhelms systems, but abundance, when organized, restores hope. Thank you.
Thank you, Marisha and Lacy. Next, Eric Klein leads a discussion with high schoolers Kaylee and Chayan about the WNC Strong Youth Service Corps. Eric, Kaylee, Chayan, take the stage.
Good afternoon. My name's Eric Klein. I'm the director of the WNC Youth Service Corps. I'm here today to give a little bit of context of the program, but then we're really here to hear from the youth. So I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves, and we'll get going.
My name is Kaylee Buchanan. I'm a junior at Mountain Heritage High School in Yancey County.
My name is Chayan. I'm a senior at Mountain Heritage High School in Yancey County.
So the WNC Youth Service Corps engages high school students in the recovery and resilience of the food and agriculture systems in their own home counties. The program started last year, was our pilot year. We worked with 24 students in Yancey, Buncombe, and Mitchell counties, thanks to a USDA disaster relief grant and generous support from the North Carolina Alliance for Health. There are four prongs to we call them legs to our table. The backbone of the program is a paid internship that youth spend 10 hours a week on a farm in their community for about 28 weeks out of the year, so through the growing season. We also are very interested in developing our students as young professionals, realizing that this is for a lot of them their first time in the adult workforce. So we do some career readiness workshops with them. We do monthly service days, one Saturday a month. The whole program descended upon one farm, and we got a lot done. And then the fourth component is the individual project. Each participant was required to design, execute, and report out on a project of their choosing that supported resilience in their home communities. So that's just a little bit about the program that they're going to talk about today. We'll say I'm happy to report. Through Dogwood's collaborative and innovative granting process, we're in our second year, and we're recruiting now for cohorts in 5 communities across the region. So, thank you. So let's start out with some questions. Can you tell a little bit about the activities you did through the Corps and maybe what your favorite was?
So Chayan and I both worked at Davis Farms in Yancey County, which is owned by Harold Davis and his family. We helped in all means of production. We worked in 2 of his 4 greenhouses. We also worked on both fields that he has. We planted, transplanted, strung up beans, tomatoes. We helped pick tomatoes. We picked beans. We picked corn. We rode in the tractor a little bit when bringing corn back up. We also helped customers inside, picking tomatoes they needed, helping stock shelves, anything that they needed help with.
Yeah, so on our service days each month, we visited a different farm around Western North Carolina. For example, we did like a tree and nut farm that was up South Toe in Yancey County. We went to a suburban farm here in Asheville. It was called Peace Gardens, where they supply and grow a small garden in a little plot for the local community. And we visited several giving gardens around the county, which was really awesome because you got to see all kinds of different agriculture productions and ways to help out others that are in need that might not be able to afford the vegetables, but still be able to help them out.
Cool. A favorite? Okay. Very simply, a favorite of those experiences?
Probably one of my favorite experiences was the workday we did at Tater Hill Farm. We picked potatoes all day. I think it was about 1 or 2 tons by the time we were done. And they also fed us fresh tater wedges. We had sliders, fried apple pie, and fresh watermelon. It was great.
I have to agree with her on that one. That probably was my favorite, but it was cool to get to visit Peace Gardens and get to see kind of how you can still produce vegetables and grow a little garden of your own, even in a big city area.
Cool. So how do you feel like your experience in the Corps prepared you to take the stage as a young person in your community's food or agriculture system?
So as Eric mentioned, we were asked to create a personal project. Chayan and I worked together at our high school and got with Blue Ridge resource and conservation development and actually helped restore our school's riverbank that runs below by our football field. We planted river cane, which is a native plant to North Carolina, and our hopes was to help stabilize and do some erosion control after the hurricane came through and detrimented our riverbanks. So that helped me with my leadership to take a stand and be the person to get others involved, and as well as communicating with David Zitlow to get him to come to the school, as well as planning our work days.
Yeah, I think my biggest thing was probably outreach. Along with our service project, I wrote a newspaper and published it in the Yancey County Times, in which I informed people about river cane and the importance of stabilizing those economic and environments, as well as just learning to be a good community member and learning how to put yourself and maybe the struggles of doing the actual work and becoming kind of a good citizen and learning to be kind to all others, because you never know when hard times are going to hit you.
Well, we really appreciate the time to present the program to you all. I think I probably should have said that it's this initiative by the Center for Environmental Farming Systems, which itself is a partnership of North Carolina State University, NCANT, and the North Carolina Department of Agriculture. Gotta say that. And I'm particularly glad to present it because it represents an aspect of the movement that we've all been talking about here of how do we adequately feed our communities, and getting youth involved in active roles and preparing them to be agents in relocalized food systems is, I think, a really important role in creating the kind of just, equitable food systems that we're all talking about here today. So thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it.